adopted in the late 1800s as the three-line rifle, is what is more popularly known today as the M91 or M1891 Mosin Nagant. It served faithfully through the Russo-Japanese War, through World War I, through the Polar Bear Expedition, and possibly some other more minor conflicts. However, in the 1930s, the Soviets thought to upgrade this rifle into this one that we have here, the M9130. So let's just take a quick moment and look at some of the upgrades that the Russians went through from this rifle to this rifle here.
It ain't cheap being an 8mm Mauser Man, and it ain't easy to have this much drip. That's why I'd like to tell you about 3 ways that you can support this channel. Number 1 is all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. You already know the drill. It tells YouTube that this is the content you want to see, and it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Second, we have 3 awesome stickers available for purchase. Simply send $5 to the Venmo in the description, and in What's This For, be sure to include the term retro, logo, or subscribed, so that I send you the right one, along with your address. You can also send your address to the email in the description if that makes you feel safer. Third, in the description there is a link to Player. Player is like YouTube and Patreon put together, but they don't take as much of your money, so it goes to supporting the content that you want to see. Finally, I'd like to add that 20% of all of the money that comes into this channel goes to supporting Rafa International, an organization that helps fight sex trafficking worldwide. Enjoy the rest of the video.
This one is a 1943 production. For the most part, we're going to focus on upgrades or changes made between the two, not just simple milling operational differences that happened between the two, because then we could be here all day. However, I do have an older video titled Early versus Late Mosin Nagants, and in that one it talks about a lot of those details. In that one, I compared this 1917 Remington Arsenal 1891 to this 1946 M44. Now, looking at the muzzles over here, the first thing that you're going to notice is that it is a little bit shorter. I believe it's about 3 inches shorter from the 1891 to the 9130, so that is the first thing that you will notice. Another thing that you'll notice is that the front sights have changed. The 1891 sights are a rear V-notch and then a front barleycorn style post. If you shoot Mausers, it's like that style. However, the Mosin Nagant has a rear U-notch and then a front squared post. And then also there is a sight hood on the 9130. Not seen here because I don't have bayonets for both of these rifles. The bayonets also attach differently. For the 1891, the bayonet fits over and then there is a latch that goes through. With the 9130, the bayonet has a socket that it twists into place. With both of these, the bayonet is off to the side and not under like we see more conventionally today. Moving back, I'm going to scoot these back onto the table so that my 9130 doesn't fall off. However, with them both still in frame, you can see that the barrel bands are a different type of setup. These barrel bands have screws, these ones don't. So with the 1891, you actually screw the screws in order to loosen them. And I'll do that with my 9130 Mosin Nagant tool. All right, we'll set that right there. And then with the 9130, you just press in on that little tab and take it off. And this can sometimes be a little bit finicky to do. Okay, so with those off, you can see that these attach differently. With the 9130, the barrel bands just slide over it, and so sometimes you can see finish worn away on this depending on how many times it's been taken apart. With the 1891, has these 2 little brass tabs here that you can see on the end. And those brass tabs fit under the barrel bands. And that is how the handguard is held in place. You'll also notice that on the 1891, the barrel band doesn't go all the way back to the rear sight like it does on the 9130. So the barrel bands are different and the handguards are different. You'll also notice that on my 2 examples, they have slightly different sling mounts. You'll notice that on my 1891, these brass pieces are screwed into the stock, and on the 9130, they're just pressure fit. So in order to tighten the barrel band, we're going to turn this screw left, and that will make this gap smaller, bringing the barrel band together and tightening around the handguard and stock. I'm going to take a quick moment to just tell you that You'll notice that this screw right here is all marred up. I did not do that. It was like that when I got it. And I think what happened was the previous owner did not understand that you actually need to tighten the screw in order to loosen the barrel band, and he just tried to gorilla it loose. So that is one of the reasons why it is really important that you know how your gun disassembles, especially with these older milsurps, before you try and do it. Otherwise, you can cause damage. Taking 10 to 20 minutes to watch a quick YouTube video is not something you will regret. Stepping back, let's look at the rear sights. So, as I mentioned, the rear sight on the M91 is a V-notch, and on the 9130 is a U-notch. However, you'll also notice that they look differently from the profile. Let me flip these around. Okay, so you will notice that on the M91, the markings are on the side right here, and on the 9130, they are on the top right there. The M91 also has markings on the top, actually on the bottom right here. We'll talk about those in just a second. So this is the battle sight, and with the battle sight, you have these different markings here. Now, these aren't in yards or meters, they are in arshins, which is the Imperial Russian unit of measurement, because this is an Imperial Russian rifle. 400 arshins, 600 arshins, all the way up to 1200 arshins. And then also, with a lot of these rifles, you'll see an extra little notch back here. And that is because 400 arshins is kind of a long-range zero. So later modifications were to add this little cut right here. Now, I know the Finns did this, however, my rifle doesn't appear to be a Finnish rifle, so I don't know where those markings got there. I don't know if the US government did it, or if a owner did it later on, because as far as I can tell, this rifle never left the United States. On the 9130, you have the markings right here going all the way up to 2,000 meters, which is, I think, really optimistic. It's designed to be like a volley sight, so if you have 100 guys in your line and you see a group of enemies a long ways away in the distance, you can use that marking to try and shoot them. Yes, it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's seriously what they tried to do. Something that's kind of neat about this is that it also has 50-yard markings, so if you click in just one side and advance it, that will advance it 50 yards at a time. So right now we're at 300, 350, 400. I think that's one of those things that not a lot of people know about this rifle, but it's kind of cool. Or if you pinch both, you can move it to wherever you want it. So that's with the 9130. Let's look at the 1891 rear sight. So if we flip this up, it has a ladder sight right there. So you're supposed to flip it up like that, and that is how you will use the volley sights on this. I'm going to flip it down for just a moment. So there you can see it will go from 1,300 arshins. See, it ended here, 1,200 arshins. Here, starting at 1,300 arshins, it goes all the way up on the ladder to 3,200 arshins, if you're all the way at the top, like that. So yeah, even with this one, you can still go down one click at a time. And that is how you use the volley sights on the 1891. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the receiver shape. All 1891s are going to have hexagonal receivers, or what's just called hex receivers, even though I guess if that went all the way around, it would technically be an octagon, not a hexagon, but we'll just let it slide this time. So that is what we'll call hex receivers right there. It's the three flat sides that you can see along the top. And then the 1891 30s are going to have round receivers. The round receiver is a simplification for milling versus making 3 marks. You can probably spin it on a lathe is how they would do that, but I'm honestly not entirely sure. But round receivers are an 9130 thing, and you will find 9130s with hex receivers as long as they were made before 1930. The ones before 1930s were 1891s that were converted to 9130s. The round receivers are true 9130s made that way. When we talk about receiver shape, that this cut right here is different. This one has this swooping angle. This one just has that straight right there. And you'll notice that the fit and finish on this one is way worse. Well, that's not necessarily because this is a 9130. That's because this one was made during World War II. This one is 1943 dated. If we look again at my M44, still a round receiver, but it has that swoop. It's a little bit different geometry, but it still has that swoop that the 1891 had. That is a little bit of a lightning cut. This one is just different geometrically, and that's probably cost savings. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about markings, but I'll just show you. This is a Tsar era M91. So it has the Tsar's marking right there, a Russian P symbol. I don't know what that exactly stands for. And then this one is a Remington arsenal, so you can see the Remington Armory 1917 serial number, and then there is that Tsar's eagle symbol on it again. The 9130, made by the Soviets, is obviously not going to have a Tsar eagle, so it has a hammer and a sickle inside of a wreath. And then the markings, 1943R, so that's probably just labeling this particular lot of these, the serial number, and then the factory right there, which is an arrow inside of a triangle. I can't remember what factory that is. It's really neat to me that for generations of Mosin Nagant, in different countries, in different places it was being used, from the stock to about here remained almost completely unchanged. Sure, there's a few things in bolt geometry that are a little bit different. The trigger shape is a little bit different, but largely the action is the exact same. I think that's really unique, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Mosin Nagant has such a bad reputation, because it truly is a first-generation repeating arm, whereas most other countries had gone through a couple before then. Like the Germans eventually adopted the Gewehr 98 in lieu of the Gewehr 88. The Americans went from the Krag Jorgensen to the 1903 and the 1917, and the British went through major changes with their Lee Enfields. However, the Mosin Nagant stayed largely the Mosin Nagant. I'm 8mm Mauser Man. Thank you so much for watching this video. I own 3 Mosin Nagant rifles, and I'm not going to tell my fiance about that, but I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John.
Big John. Big John.